I want to tell you a story about a benevolent being, a being that became a legend among anyone who knew her. The story of the mighty Isla nublar Brachiosaurus. My name is Mick, and I'm a pteranodon. I never seemed to fit in well with my family. I was always the odd one out, but there is one person that I did mesh well with, and it was the Queen Brachiosaurus of Isla nublar. I was still very young, so she was like a mother to me in her wise words and her kind treatment of me. Every morning we would have a routine. I would fly over to where she was, and I would help her get the leaves from the very tippy tops of the trees by shaking them loose, by raking my beak along the topmost branch so that she could get the leaves into her mouth. She provided me with shade and shelter. Even though for some reason her eyesight was failing, she always protected me while I was on the ground. See, this was an advantage that the other pteranodons didn't really have. They were always told that the ground was a dangerous place because it was so hard for us to take off once we landed. But with her, I never felt unsafe. Her name was Gaia. Gaia was the kind of person who was very perspicacious. She always had something to say that made your life better, that made you look at things a completely different way than you had before. So whenever she spoke, everyone listened. For many years, we always stuck together. Wherever she went is where I went. Whoever she spoke with is who I spoke with. Her friends became my friends, and I became one of the most astute pteranodons on the island. One day she had asked me if there was another world I could see out there. I told her no. I flew up as high as I could, and I flew out as far as I could, and I couldn't see anything for miles. I don't know, but it's like there was an ingrained fear in all of the pteranodons and flying creatures of the island that did not feel comfortable flying over open water. There were a select few that did a long time ago, as per legend, but they were killed by an unknown entity. So, needless to say, all of us were a little bit reluctant to go over the open water again, although there was no way to really prove that this actually happened to the other pteranodons. There was a rumor that one of the pteranodons made it back and told the rest of us, but that's just a rumor, because we don't know who that pteranodon is. Everyone and their mother was friends with Gaia. One of her very best friends was a three-horned triceratops named Lunis, and a stegosaurus named Rationale. Whenever I told them stories about mankind, they always laughed me to scorn. I tried to fit in by telling them that I could understand some of the human language, but I realized that that was a great conversation ender, so I stopped doing it. Gaia, whenever we were alone, would always love listening to my stories. I'm not really sure to this day if she believed them or not, but she was always very attentive when I would tell them about the man and what they were talking about. For example, when I told Lunis that she was a triceratops, she laughed in my face and then got angry. Two very different emotions which confused the mess out of me, and told me that she was not any such thing, but she was a habibi bibi. Whatever the hell that is. Triceratops were very strong-willed animals, but they were also very stupid at times. Their pride blinded them to the point where they were so ignorant that even when you presented facts in front of them, they would completely overlook them. Ironically, they make fun of sensitive people, but they themselves are overcome with so much emotion that they cannot act outside of anything else. So when Lunis got together with her stegosaurus friend to talk to Gaia and me about this supposed ending of the island, I looked at her as though she were crazy. You'll sit here with your nonsensical behavior when the land is supposed to gobble us up any moment now, any day now. We should be devising a plan to get to the big water so we can get out of here. Lunis, why ever do you have such an idea? Asked my long-necked best friend, Gaia. That's right, Gaia, challenge her, even though I knew that wouldn't happen, because the way that Gaia usually challenged people was non-confrontational. She never said a word to make anyone feel offended, but she never really said a word to totally agree with them either. She was always neutral but encouraging in the way she spoke with everyone. It was refreshing, but in a situation like this, it was nerve-wracking and infuriating. But as infuriated as I was, I sat silently on her head top as I let this whole thing play out. Why do I have such an idea? Haven't you heard the rumblings of the big beast below, warning us to get off the water? It's as if you people are oblivious to your surroundings. Rationale slammed her hardtail on the ground and looked over at Lunis harshly. Ah, you're so silly. If everyone has heard this, why didn't they come to us? What on earth do you mean? Well, Lunis, forgive me if I'm being a little skeptical.
But you're the only one that's saying these things. The two friends began fighting amongst themselves, verbally of course. And then it started to get physical. Rationale raised her spiked tail in the air, ready to swing it at her friend's face. And Lunas was ready, grabbing the spikes and hooking them within her horns and tossing them to the side. This almost sent the Stegosaurus off kilter, who was very angry at the embarrassment. Gaia chuckled, even in light of all of this, and she put her foot between the two friends. Now, ladies, let's not get out of sorts. If this is the case, Lunas, then I do agree that you should make preparations if such a thing were to happen. On the other hand, Rational, it is healthy to have a drop of doubt in certain situations as well. While we should always be prepared for such a thing, we should not live our lives constantly in fear and superstition as to what may happen. I too have felt a rumbling beneath my legs, but the island has always made such sounds. What makes you think now is any different? Lunas and Rationale were glaring at each other from around the big Brachiosaurus's legs. Lunas looks up at the Brachiosaurus Gaia and says, I know what people may say about us, but I know that we pride ourselves on having a sixth sense when it comes to things like this. We are wild smart. Obviously, this is a bigger issue than it's ever had been before because we never said anything about it before, have we? Gaia smiled. She always looks so unbothered by situations like this when they make me tense. They'd probably make anyone tense, or highly amused, which is probably what Gaia was. That is true. Although you did mention things like this in the past, but not with the adamancy as you're doing now. Before anyone can say anything else, Lunas's son comes in hot and grinds to a halt. She looks back down at her Triceratops son and says with a very stern tone, You think I didn't notice that you were gone? No, of course, Mom. I didn't go very far. Didn't go very far? I have eyes and ears all over this island, boy. The two of them started to flap their beaks, and that's when Gaia and I made our exit. Later that night, Gaia and I found a spot by ourselves to sleep, but she always overlooked the other dinosaurs on the plains that were sleeping as well. She was always the last one to go to sleep. She was so protective of everyone. She says and claims always that they were always her children, since she never had any of her own. The only other family that she had died off a long time ago. Gaia, do you believe what she said? Gaia turns her long neck to face me in my tree branch. Of course. I believe everyone, to the extent that they believe what they are saying. I believe that Lunas feels that way, and I respect how threatened she feels about whatever is impending. Whether it be the island gobbling us up, or something more sinister, I'm not sure. But if she's concerned about it, I trust her instincts. This made my beak hang open. You seriously believe her? What would this world be, Mick, if we did not respect each other's beliefs? We can respect each other's beliefs, I reply, but that doesn't mean we have to believe along with them. All varying beliefs are connected through some form of truth, do you know? That doesn't make sense, Gaia. How could they be varying beliefs and be connected by one truth? Because, Mick, at the root of every superstition is a common denominator. She started speaking about something else. Her voice was so lulling and calming that I couldn't help but fall asleep. The sun was getting high in the sky, and I woke up. Gaia had already been awake, browsing on some nearby tree. She never left too far until I woke up too. My friend was so kind. She would always wait for me to awake before leaving me. I know that the thing she wanted to do so eagerly in the mornings, every morning, was to dive into the water hole and take a full body bath. But she would never leave me on my own, even if she woke up 3 hours before I did. Mick, you're finally awake. Thank goodness. Gaia, I told you, you can always go by yourself. You don't have to wait for me. I was exhausted. What if I was asleep for another 2 hours? No, we always go together. A young Parasaurolophus came up to us and asked us, Hey, do you guys know where all the toothpastes went? I looked down at him with my eyebrow raised, or what would be an eyebrow. What are you talking about? I asked him. You know, the three-faced things. Parasaurs weren't the smartest of the bunch. Do you mean the three horns, the Triceratops? Yeah, the Charcharops, or whatever the hell you call it. They're all gone. Wow, I guess Lunas took it more seriously than I thought. Gaia was concerned. I could see it in her face. Without a goodbye? Why does it concern you, young Parasaur? Gaia asked the smaller dinosaur.
Well, we had a deal that, they would trash into the trees when we dug the holes for them, and they just skipped out without delivering. That's kind of messed up, man. But anyway, whatever. I can't ever trust those stupid things anyway. I mean, my brother told me not to get involved with those stupid things, and I keep making the same mistake over and over again, thinking they're reliable and whatnot.
We chuckled as we watched him walk away, mumbling to himself. He's really mad. I'll say, replied Gaia. All right, let's go to the watering hole. Gaia walked very slowly and surely. She had a tumble a while back, and she almost broke her foot. So she realized that as she was getting older, and it was easier for her to get injured, that she had to take caution with her steps. She also mentioned that in one particular leg, it felt very weak, whatever she meant by that. She probably meant that the bone was weak, and if she stepped on it wrong, she could break her foot, which would be really bad for her. It's what happened to one of her family members a long time ago. They slipped and crashed into something, falling down on one of their feet with all of their weight. After that, and she started to feel pain herself, she remarked that her family had weak bones. It took me a while to even realize what she meant by bones. Gaia taught me many things. She took me to a corpse that was quite a walks away, and when I looked at it, I saw that inside of the body were these white things that stuck out, that held up whatever it was that had previously been alive. And she said that was inside of all of us. She said it's what gave our gooey parts shape. From then, I was always very conscious about my bones in my body. I also realized that bigger dinosaurs had bigger bones to help their shapes stay more in shape. Otherwise, the gooiness would just implode on itself. It was always funny because whenever I got something that she taught us or taught me, I would always laugh and be like, I got it! Oh my gosh, I understand now! And the laughter that rang from her voice was just so intoxicating. She would laugh for minutes. She would feel so good when we finally got something, or when whoever she was teaching about the science of the land would understand what she was trying to teach. It made her so happy to learn about things and to also pass down that knowledge to others. All right, I'm landing it hot on top of your head because I'm still really tired. Gaia shifted her head to the side so that I would miss the landing. What are you doing? You need your exercise in the morning. You'll stop. Besides, you need to warm up before you take a bath. You can't just hop into the water cold. That's not healthy for you. Who says that you can't splash into the water cold when you wake up? I say. So what happens when you go into the water cold after just waking up? It will make your bones weaker. I didn't know if this was true or not, but most of the things that Gaia said did have a ring of truth to them, so I listened, at least when I was around her. Hey Gaia, do you think this- Whoa! Right when I was going into a landing on the ground next to Gaia, this thing came flying past me, or running past me. I wasn't even really sure whether it was flying or running because it was such a blur. As I looked into the distance, I wasn't even sure what it was. It had the body of a parasaur, but the head was kind of hard. Are you alright? Where is he going in such a hurry? Gaia asked. Suddenly, we both felt a rumble, and it took me a while to realize that the rumble had always been there. It's just that it was so consistent that we didn't notice it off the bat until it became more violent. In the far distance, we could see that most of the dinosaurs had migrated closer to the big water. Hey, what's everyone doing down there? I don't know, said Gaia. Suddenly, there was screaming, not just from one herd of dinosaurs, but from everyone, it seemed, on the island. All the dinosaurs that we saw in the distance that were migrating to the water were only the few of the dinosaurs that were on the plains. But the rest, the second wave that we saw, were coming in hot, and this wall of what looked like smoke was following close behind them. What is happening? I ascended into the sky immediately so I can get a better vantage point, and what I saw made my mouth dry. Gaia? I said to my friend, forcing her to turn her neck slowly around to face the direction from whence the fleeing dinosaurs came. So many trees were on fire behind them as they all came out stampeding towards us. Oh no, Gaia, we gotta move, let's go! I flapped around my friend's face, but she would not look at me. Gaia, we have to go, I said as I flew in front of her. Come on! A lot of the pteranodons also flew out. A lot of them were the first to fly since they were faster. What are you still doing here? Move! said a leader of one of the pteranodon flocks. I recognized his voice without even looking at him. He had tried for so many years for me to be his mate, but I never wanted to be part of his flock, or anyone's flock. He looked really handsome, come to think of it right now. Can't think about that right now. Gaia, we need to go. What are you staring at? I tried desperately to get her attention, and without looking at me, she replied, Rationale's still in there. At this point in time of the day, they're deep in the forest browsing, and I don't see her. In one swell movement, she starts going towards the lake of fire that is coming towards us. You're not seriously going back there. Do you see that that's where everyone's running from? Gaia then looks at me without stopping, and she says, You go, my friend. Save yourself. I have to save Rationale. To hell with this. I flew away, leaving Gaia to walk back and save the Stegosaurus and her friends. But I stopped in emotion and looked back. I couldn't let my friend go back on her own. I mean, what was I gonna do? I was so much smaller than her. I mean, oh my gosh, the smoke, the wall of smoke that was rising over the trees and the lake of fire and the noise. I can see better than she can. She has failing eyesight. She's gonna get lost. She's not gonna know where to step around. Oh my gosh. I flew back over to where Gaia was and flew in front of her. Listen, we're friends. If you go down, I go down. Besides, you're not gonna be able to find them so easily and navigate yourself around the lake of fire. You do realize that there's a hot lake of fire covering the ground, right? You don't have to do that, Mick. I don't want you to put yourself in danger. Shut up, Gaia, I say in response. Do you want to save Rationale and her friends? Of course, said Gaia. Well then, if you die, she dies too. So to not have that happen, you have to follow me. You're the best friend ever. That's why I love you. You're such a good person. I'm a good person? She's willing to walk into the fire literally to save her friends. What was she gonna do when she got there? I flew high into the air to see if there was a way she could step around the lake of fire. On the right-hand side, the lake of fire was slower, maybe because it was a higher elevation, so it was harder for it to get over that bump. So I led her in that direction. We both were horrified as we tried to avoid the falling rocks from the sky, and then suddenly there was a large wall of fast-moving smoke that seemingly at the last minute changed direction to our left, swallowing up all the dinosaurs that were only what seemed like a few yards away. I tried to stay high above the smoke, but if I got too high I couldn't really see, so I had to keep dipping back into the wall of smoke, which burned my lungs. I couldn't imagine how Gaia was feeling, and then I knew when she started coughing. Her coughs were very odd. I've heard other dinosaurs cough, and it comes out as a very abrupt exhalation of air. But with hers, maybe because she had such a long neck, it was like a rumbling noise coming from the depths of the earth and then exhaled as a very big gush of air. Not like but more like Because of that, coughing must have taken more energy for her than it took for any of us. Please help me. Gaia, I can hear her. She's up ahead. The fire blazed. The sound of trees burning was the most terrifying sound I've ever heard. We're coming, Rationale. I wanted to tell Gaia in that moment that she was having such trouble breathing that no matter how loud she screamed, Rationale would not hear her. Gaia was getting excited as she could hear Rationale's voice even clearer. She got so excited that she momentarily toppled. Her neck was a little bit peeking over the smoke, and then it disappeared very suddenly. Gaia, I said as I stopped flapping and started flying in reverse to try and backtrack where I was. Gaia? I dove into the smoke, which was much thicker back here. Since we were venturing deeper into the forest, the smoke was so thick back here because all the trees were on fire. I dove down deeper into the smoke trying to hold my breath, and I saw Gaia getting back up. She had hurt one of her legs. I'm sorry, Mick, I tripped. Gaia, we need to turn back. This is ridiculous. If anything is back here and it's still alive, they're gonna die any second now. It's not worth you losing your life over as well. She whipped her head up very fast in my general direction like she was trying to knock me out of the sky. What was that? She glared at me, her eyes red, bloodshot. She was suffocating. Mick, I am old. My life is not worth living if I cannot help the young. Rationale's as old as you are. Your life is what you make of it. You give yourself purpose. The purpose that I gave my life was to protect those that I love. I couldn't do it for my family. Rationale is my family. Lunas is my family, Gaia said as she got back up slowly, limping and then walking more surely to the direction of where she heard her friend's voice. I became so irate, not just because she tried to knock me out of the sky, but because of what she said about Lunas. I flapped higher, but not high to the point where she couldn't hear me. I still stayed as close as I could because I wanted her to hear what I was saying. You're a good friend, Gaia, you are, but Lunas, she's not a good friend. Have you not remembered that she left you? She left you high and dry here. She could have gotten up in the morning and said, hey, we're going to the big water. But she left. Where's Lunas? Is she your family? She betrayed you. I'm still here, and I'm glad that she left. She knows that I am a friend. She knows that I am her family and that I love her, and that it would hurt me if she ever stayed in danger. She did the best thing that she could to make me so happy. Do you think I would want any of my friends in this situation right now? I'd rather it be me. What? I say. That's all I could. You know, there are nice people, and then there are people who are so nice they are stupid. And that's how I felt in that moment about my friend. I loved her, but I wanted to hit her. I wanted to peck her eyes out. Anything to make her run away from this place. Now I was here putting myself in danger because of her. It was getting harder to fly. My body wasn't getting enough air. And I don't know what it is about smoke, but it's really hard to fly in it. Gaia, is that you? We both whip our heads towards the ground in the general direction where we heard her voice. I dove down beneath all the smoke, and there she was. I saw Rationale pinned underneath a tree. Another Stegosaurus was also pinned beneath a tree, but it was dead. No, I didn't take the time to check, but I don't think I had to, since it had a large branch sticking through one side of its neck. I never thought I'd ever see you guys again. I guess that old stupid horned face was right, huh? I guess so. Suddenly, the tree lifted off and was thrown away off to the side. I saw Gaia's head, burnt. Part of the tree was still on fire. Can you run? Can you run, Rationale? Asked Gaia. Hell yes. When Rationale saw the fire around her, she freaked out and ran ahead. Thank you so much, Gaia. Let's go. She didn't even stop to look and see if Gaia was following. She just kept running. She was going to end up running straight into the lake of fire. And like clockwork, Gaia looked around at me. You must help her, Mick. Lead her out of the forest like you let me in. Gaia. I remember how to get in. She doesn't. Don't worry. Go. Go save her. Make sure she gets to the big water. Go, Mick, please. Something told me not to leave my friend, but this is what she wanted. So I did. I swooped down near to the stupid Stegosaurus's face as she was running. You're going the wrong way. We need to go to the left. Follow me. Okay, she said. Where's Gaia? I could tell by the way she was asking that she really didn't care. She was just asking because she felt guilty about leaving her, but when it really came down to it, if I hadn't been in the picture, she still would have just left Gaia there, all by herself. This made me not want to save her. This made me want to deliberately lead her into a pit where she'd fall into that lake of fire. But I didn't do that because I wanted to honor Gaia. So I let her. I've never seen a Stegosaurus run so fast. As I flew up higher, I could see something on the water. Not where all the other dinosaurs were, but more off to the right. There was it was a big rock in the middle of the water, and I could hear dinosaurs inside of it. They were escaping. But then I saw humans on it too. I had really good vision, and even though my vision was kind of cloudy because of the smoke, I could definitely tell that they were humans, and there were some packing in dinosaurs. They were rescuing them. New plan, I say to Rationale. I swooped over to the right, and she followed me. I could tell that she was having a hard time breathing, but her adrenaline was doing all the work. We ran towards the edge of that water, and I flew leading the way. Before the floating rock could really leave the shore, I squawked loudly. Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't moving yet. It was still loading some of the dinosaurs in. Humans were not really the kindest beings, so why were they helping them? No time to question. I saw as Rationale sat there, and she roared. She just sat there waiting for the humans to come. I could hear what they were saying and understand a lot of what they were saying. Oh look, this one made it easy on us. They went over to her, put something around her neck, and let her in like a baby. Seriously, and she just followed them. There was already a cage that they had opened, so they put her in there with another one of her kind. They hugged one another. Of course, it was someone that Rationale knew. I looked at all the dinosaurs that were inside of this large rock floating on the water, and I marveled at how it was able to float. Well, then again, our island is a large rock on the water too, so that's a stupid question. There were pteranodons in cages as well. The big male that I talked about earlier that wanted to mate with me, he was in there too. So were several of his females. I heard a voice calling me, Mick! Mick! I couldn't see the owner of the voice, but I knew who it was. It was Lunas's son. Have you seen my mom? No, I haven't seen her. I thought she was with you. He said something else to me, but I couldn't make out what it was. Because the noise that cut through all of the noise that was on this floating rock made everyone quiet. Maybe part of that had to do with the humans sticking all of the dinosaurs with something that made them quiet or made them go to sleep. But as I looked back towards the island, I recognized what the noise was. It was Gaia. She was singing and she was in pain. I flew back out of the rock before anyone could grab me. And right after I flew out, this large thing with wheels hopped into the floating rock. If I had stayed there one more moment, I would have been flattened. I flew hard and fast back towards the noise. I cut through the smoke. Gaia? Mick, I heard her weakly say. Gaia, Gaia, I heard all of you, I heard you. We have very good ears, us long necks. Gaia, follow me. There's this floating rock that everybody's on. The humans are rescuing them. Come, hurry, hurry! Gaia was slow, and that's why it took her so long to get to this point. She risked her life for rationale, and now I get an opportunity to save her. She gets to go with all of us. So I flew hard and fast, and she followed me. She kept on calling me, but I wouldn't listen. I kept saying, Gaia, come on, hurry! I guess now you have to get over your fear of the open water, huh? She said to me. Yeah, I know, not like we have much of a choice, right? My poor watering hole. You'll get another one. I flapped harder and faster until I broke through the smoke. And to my horror, the floating rock was floating away. It was far away. I mean, I could reach it, but there's no way that Gaia could reach it. Oh no, I said in horror. I looked back at Gaia and she was several paces behind me. It was hard for her to keep up. And the lake of fire was right on her heels. Gaia, you have to run. You have to move faster. My bones. Gaia, I don't care about your bones. Run! I flew over closer to the floating rock and begged them to wait. I could understand the humans, but it was infuriating that they couldn't understand me. Wait, please, my friend. She's right here. You can get her too. Please, please. They weren't slowing down. As a matter of fact, the floating rock was picking up speed. For the few dinosaurs that were still awake inside the floating rock, I could hear them screaming out Gaia's name and crying. The few of them that were awake were cheering her on, were encouraging her to come on, that she could make it, jump into the water, follow us. I flew back over to Gaia and urged her to be quick. If you could just jump into the water, you can catch up. I swear you can catch up. You're right, Mick. Okay, she said out of breath. Abruptly, there was a hissing noise, which caused Gaia to stumble momentarily, but she got back up and walked at a quicker pace. As I looked behind her, I could see that lake of fire, really biting at her heels, literally inches away every time she took a step. I saw momentarily what this stuff could do to dinosaurs. What it did to trees, what it did to skin and bone was horrifying. Gaia let out a cry. I didn't say anything because I was held in such suspense, waiting for her to get to the water. She was only literally 10 feet away from jumping over into the water where she'd be safe from the stuff. Gaia, stay on the strip of land in front of you. You gotta get as far away from it as possible before you dive in. Mick, you're so bossy. She was making all these snide remarks to everything that I said, but I knew that she was doing it because she was trying to make light of the situation. But in her eyes and her movements, I could tell that she was scared. After feeling the fire at her heels, burning her, I could tell that she was afraid. But she could make it. She was literally right there. You're gonna make it, Gaia. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. You're right there. Just jump in the water. Yes, I'm gonna make it. Keep moving, Gaia. Keep moving. Hurry. Take bigger strides. Keep moving. But as though the evil in the world was playing a sick joke, literally, only a few feet before she jumped into the water, the lake of fire seemed to pick up speed and eat her legs right from under her. As she was falling, I kept telling her to teeter forward so she could fall into the water. But she couldn't. I watched my friend's feet get stuck in the fire, and I watched her crumple. Not falling sideways, not falling forward, crumpling into the lake of fire that pooled at her feet now. She cried. Even in death, Her song was beautiful and melancholy. Gaia! Mick, fly across the open water. Fly. Don't worry about me, Mick. I've lived my long life. She wanted to tell me more, but the pain pierced through, and all she could let out were screams. No. As her body burned, the smoke became thicker. I looked at the fire lake on the ground, just not even stopping with her, but going straight into the water, like she didn't even matter. Its only purpose was to just keep moving forward and destroying everything in its path. No matter how important and valuable that life was, I wanted to hate it, but it wouldn't respect my hatred. I flew above the smoke because I was literally choking my lungs out. And I followed the floating rock. I landed on the side of it where no one could see me, and I cried. On the open water, I woke up. I realized I was still asleep on the perch edge of the floating rock. I could hear the dinosaurs inside starting to wake up. A lot of them were crying. Of course, they must have lost some of their family members and been separated. I looked back to the direction of where I thought the island was. Our island. I could no longer see it. I could smell the air. It was so much different than anything I've ever smelled. The smell of big open water was so terrifying to me. Something about this floating rock, even though it rescued the other dinosaurs, I knew that it wasn't particularly safe. I could feel that we were heading closer to some place that wasn't really nice. I don't know what it was about the way I felt, but after what happened, I learned to trust my instinct. Lunas was right about one thing. So whenever I had this weird feeling, no matter how stupid it may seem, I decided to follow it. So I extended my wings and flapped powerfully and headed over the open water. I was fearful, but I headed to wherever I was going. I flew for a while and there was nowhere to rest. I could smell what seemed like land, but I wasn't even sure how to get there. Suddenly, the water below me swelled. I flapped higher, in total fear of what was below. I heard a haunting noise, and as I stayed up in the air, gliding, trying to figure out what it was below me in this enigmatic water, I saw a colossal figure rise up to the surface. It was that swimming creature from their island that killed so many of us that ventured too close to its enclosure. The mighty Mosa. Where was she going? The monster always stayed in one area, but she somehow figured out a way to escape. My eyes remained pasted open as I saw her dive back down into the deep. For some reason, seeing her made what happened to my island feel final. The only thing I could do at that point in time was to honor Gaia's memory, was to honor Gaia herself for sacrificing her life. Gaia was the last of her kind, but her memory would forever live on in my heart and in the minds of all of those who came from the island. I didn't know where they were going, but I definitely wanted to seek out the world, to find a better place where I could start anew, so I could learn more about the world around us. I didn't even know if I'd ever find land. I've heard that the open water was so large and so vast that even the strongest flyers could fall down into it if they flew for too long or too great of a distance. Despite all of this, I would take the chance. So here I am, still flying after a day over the water. My wings are tired and feeling heavy, and I'm probably not going to make it. But I'm still going to try. I start to fall down into the water, losing altitude pretty quickly. My wings are getting heavy. This is it. At least I tried. My body starts to fall like a rock when my wings give out. And right before I hit the bottom, something grabs me and hoists me up into the air very quickly. Ow! My head hangs for a little while because I'm quite dizzy from this sudden whiplash. And when I hold my head up and I look at what is carrying me, it's this really large flyer. It's a pteranodon like me. Well, hello there, young miss. Looks like you're ready to bow out. Abashed, I let out a chuckle. You saved my life. Judging from how tired you are, I can tell that you probably don't know where you're going. You probably were just aimlessly flapping about. He's right. I was aimlessly flapping about. I had no idea where I was going.
Well, we flyers stick together and we aid each other in our journey, so since I'm one of the strongest of my flock, I'll help carry you half the way. You've only got, an hour left of travel. However, had you kept going the direction that you were headed, you would have flown straight out to sea to your death.
This revelation of information makes my heart race. Thank you so much. When we finally land, it's an island that is lush and looks a lot like the island that I came from. I told the other pteranodons what had happened to my island. To my shock, they didn't seem so surprised. One of the older pteranodons, a female, said, "Oh, I saw that happening for many years before. I told them that would happen. I mean, there's an active volcano sitting on the island." Another pteranodon replied in saying that it wasn't active, to which she responded, "Yes, it was. Just because it's asleep doesn't mean it's dead. If it's breathing, it's alive. Stupid things. It was only a matter of time before it woke up on the wrong side of the nest with a horrible, bitter attitude." For some reason, her saying this makes me even sadder. To know that people did know about this volcano, that this was going to happen a long time ago, and we had a chance to get it right. Everyone could have lived off my island, but so many died needlessly. I wonder what happened to Lunas. She was one of the first to warn us about this, and she was nowhere to be seen. The pteranodons were very hospitable and welcoming, and I could tell that they were native to this island. It was their home. As I flew inland to meet some of the other dinosaurs, I saw a welcoming sight. There below me were smaller versions of Gaia. I landed atop a tree and began talking with them.
"Wow, you can understand us?"
says one of them. I began to tell them about my friendship with Gaia and who she was, and so my story begins. And every sauropod that I meet, I relay the story of Gaia and how she sacrificed herself. It didn't take long for everybody to know the story of Gaia. Her story and her name was on everyone's lips. And of course now the story has gotten ridiculous to the point where she has wings and she's flying through the air and putting out fires. But still, her memory lives on in the most awesome way possible. I will never forget my friend, the most brave brachiosaur that ever lived, the last of her kind. If you guys didn't know, we have a Patreon account. We have something very special in store for our patrons. On the Patreon website, I will be answering questions that you may have about the story. Basically, they're trivias based on the point of view theory, such as, is the Stygimoloch story directly tied in with this one, and what happened to Lunas? All that stuff is going to be answered on Patreon. Well, that was a story of the Brachiosaurus death from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I hope you guys enjoyed that story, that point of view theory. Of course, it was a little bit more elaborate than they usually are, but that's part of the fun. Stay tuned for more, and thank you so much for watching and listening. This has been Alteori. You ask, we answer.